Hello, everyone. Can you see me and can you hear me? Whoa. Did you hear that? Wow. Sorry about that. I hope that wasn't a stressful experience for you. We'll give it a few more minutes, allow other people to join the line before we get started. Just wait one more minute. I see we have 6 people. Hello, Tyler from Sudbury, right on. That's where I'm originally from. Just trying to get my slideshow going. Okay, I think it should be working. Everybody should see slides. Okay, all right. So I have an 11 o'clock and we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Lucas DeMarco. I'm the Health Promotion Manager at 22 Wing. I've been in the position for about 10 years now, and one of the aspects of health promotion, one of the core program areas is stress and social wellness. So these slides are actually taken from our Stress Take Charge course. And what we're going to be looking at specifically is stress related to change. And I think in the world these days, everybody has dealt with some sort of change over the last few months. And, we went from a change originally, and now we're transitioning maybe back into a new normal. So I thought we'd do just a quick session. It shouldn't take too long. We'll see. Just about some tips and tricks on how to manage change and manage your stress. Change equals stress, usually. Even if it's good change, it causes a stress response in our bodies, and we need to know how to stay healthy through the crazy transitions in life. So actually, before we get started, what we'll do is I'd like to show this slide, and this is the slide from National Head Office that wants everybody just to be aware of the parameters within this presentation. So first of all, the presentation you're about to view is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. Any reproduction or retransmission of the slides contained in this presentation is strictly forbidden. Some of the topics discussed in this webinar may be of sensitive nature or not appropriate for children. So just in case you're still at home, not in the workplace, not back in the workplace yet, and you have your child at home with you and they might be sitting on your lap, just understand that this material is for adults. So we do ask for that parental discretion. Please understand that people's stories are theirs alone to tell, and anything that is shared by participants in this webinar, either on the camera or on the chat. And we're not going to have people on camera in this one. We'll just have maybe some engagement on the chat and then a few polls, anonymous and optional polls that I'll throw up there for you to engage in. Just know that it's not to be discussed outside the webinar, but at the same time, understand that this webinar is being recorded. So anything that you engage in with myself or with other participants, just understand that that is the climate of what you're engaging in today. The idea is to have all these webinars banked so that people can reflect on them that weren't able to make the live performance today. So we just want people to be aware of that as we move forward. So what I'll do first, before even getting into the content, is I will fire up our first poll. So I'll get in there right now. And the first one that I'd like to start is just to understand who you are and what that demographic is. So we're going to share right now, what is your affiliation with the CAF community? So I've gone ahead and shared that. Are you a serving member, a veteran, a family member, a civilian employee, or other? Okay, so I see with our small audience today, strong but small audience, we have 3 serving members, 2 civilian employees, four serving members, 3 civilian employees, and 1 other. So thank you. That actually helps me a lot to kind of understand who's out there and who I'm talking to. So I appreciate it. If you haven't noticed, I'm really looking forward to getting a haircut. It's been a while, and I need that haircut. Thank you for telling me that my slides disappeared. I'll try to fire that back up right now. This technology is always fun that way. All right. Okay. I'm having a stressful experience as I try to fire up these slides. Interesting. Well, that's not good. Refresh. I'm trying. Oh no. Talk amongst yourselves. How's your day? How are things going? Has anybody ever done this before? Anybody want to help me out? Oh, there we go. So if I share it now, Trevor, please tell me via text, because I have Trevor as my assistant on the other line telling me if he can see the screen. I hope he can see it. You see it, Trevor? Yes. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me out there. So first of all, before we go into the content about stress, the first thing that we wanted to start with, or I wanted to start with, was actually a quote, and this is outside of our material that we use in health promotions, but it's actually a really useful quote that I find for this content, just to start it out. It's a 30-second speech from Brian Dyson. He's the CEO of Coca-Cola. So good thing this isn't a nutrition brief from health promotions, but I find it helps a lot in terms of starting this content. So what he said to his employees is, imagine life as a game in which you are juggling some 5 balls in the air. So they're work, family, health, friends, and spirit. And you're trying to keep all these balls in the air at all times. You'll soon understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. But the other 4 balls, so family, health, friends, and spirit, they're made of glass. So if you drop one of those balls, they'll be irrevocably scuffed, marked, nicked, damaged, or even shattered. They'll never be the same. So hopefully what you take from this is the big picture, right? Life has changed drastically for a lot of people over the last little while. And a lot of that has to do with financial security, with job changes and job loss and reintegration back into the workforce and all that kind of thing. The most important things in life are not work, and it can come back, it can bounce back. But if you drop those other balls at the expense of work, those are your relationships. That's your legacy. Those are the things that are most important for you. That's what you're working for. So if you have to drop one of those balls during life as you go through change, let the work one drop. Easier said than done, but you don't want to drop those other balls and have that kind of damage on your hands. So this is normal life, right? But in the context of change and the amount of change that we've seen just in the last little bit, it's almost like we're doing this juggling act in the middle of a windstorm, right? Things that are out of our control are throwing these balls all over the place, and we're just trying to make sure that nothing drops. And again, easier said than done. If you can, grab those other balls, let the work one drop. But hopefully that helps you just with whatever chaos might be going on in your life or change going on in your life. This might be able to ground you and help you out that way. So one really fun thing that we do in our Stress Take Charge course is we talk about how do you describe your stress. Before we get into the academic portion of the content where we talk about what stress is, what the stress response is, we like to get emotionally in touch with how we relate to our own stress. So you could relate it to a mountain, a swamp, a desert, or an iceberg. So for example, a mountain, you could feel like all week with whatever you're doing, either family-wise or work-wise or whatever, it feels like you're climbing a mountain. It's like you're just getting on one step so you can get to the next step, and you just feel like it's an endless climb, and it's a big, huge mountain. How am I ever going to get to the top of it? A swamp could be, you feel like you're stuck. You're trudging through the swamp. You're not really getting anywhere. The more time that you spend in that swamp, the dirtier you're getting. A desert, you're wandering through that desert. You don't see any end in sight, hill after hill. You're feeling pretty alone as well. You're in the desert. Iceberg could be another way that you relate to your stress. And that one really is, I think, what a lot of people are relating to these days, in that they're isolated. We've never had to be this isolated from each other before, at least in my life. So maybe you feel like you're almost drifting away from society, and that's how you feel you relate to your stress. So I just thought it would be fun to actually have everybody just chime in on the chat and just simply write down mountain, swamp, desert, or iceberg, and let me know how you relate to your stress. So let's look out for those now. And I'll keep moving on with the content, but chime in so that all of our participants can see where everybody's feeling. And again, it's not specific. It's pretty safe to say what terrain you're working within in your life. But go ahead, and if you feel comfortable, let everybody know. And I'm starting to see some responses, so that's great. All right. So what is stress? So it's our body's response to a stimulus or demand. It's an automatic physical reaction. So we've heard the stress response before. Hopefully a lot of us have heard fight, freeze, fight, freeze, or fly. Those are basically your three ways that we react to stress. And the reason why we have those reactions is because of our evolution. Over thousands of years, humans have adapted to be able to protect themselves. So most of that time has been spent in a primitive state where, we were cave people, and we either ran from the bear, or we attacked the bear, or we played dead. And those three reactions saved us for a long time. The problem now is that we're in modern society where we don't, in normal circumstances, need those physical reactions. So for example, if I'm having an argument with somebody in the workplace or in my personal life, I still have either a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. And when that happens, things happen like my mouth gets dry and my stomach cramps up and my heart starts racing. None of those things really help me in modern society in terms of being able to articulate how I feel to the other person and present a very sound and non-emotional argument. But again, when we have those physical reactions that are ingrained into us, it makes those types of things difficult. So the idea of managing stress on the spot is to try to respond and not react with those ingrained reactions that we tend to go to in our survival mode. So yeah, it's that tension that we feel when faced with these situations. And it can be negative or it can be positive. So negative stress is distress. And that's what we relate to a lot when we think about when we're stressed out. Well, we're stressed out because we're frustrated with our boss, or we don't like our job, or we're something very negative in our life. But it's also important to acknowledge that there are positive stresses out there that take their toll on us as well. So eustress. So if you think back to the last year of your life, and you're like, well, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I've had a lot of positive things in the last year. I might have gotten married. I got the promotion I wanted to. I had a child. These are all things that I wanted and I worked towards. Why am I feeling overwhelmed? These are things that I wanted. So it's very confusing, but it's still change. Just because it's not necessarily negative change, there's just a lot of change that comes with positive things. If you're planning a wedding, or all those types of things take a toll on you. So acknowledge both the positive changes and the negative changes in your life, and that'll help you understand a little bit more of where you're at and why you might be feeling the way that you do, and that you need to manage some stress. I should mention right now that I have a very limited ability to monitor the chat as I go through without losing my slideshow. So I apologize if you're chiming in with any questions at this point. Hopefully you're not. Maybe you did. Just save those questions for the end so that I can get onto the chat and take a look, and we can engage in that way at that point. All right, so reactions to stress. So they can vary from physical, emotional, mental, and behavioral. So you might be able to see some that you identify with on that list. So the physical reactions, you know, those ones that I was just talking about, emotional, you see those, mental, behavioral. What I usually tell people at this point is to take note of ones that can be warning signs for you. A lot of times we don't know that we're stressed because it's almost like our normal. Well, my life is always crazy. I mean, I can't tell if you know, this is my new normal, and how I don't see much difference between you know, any kind of baseline of stress. I tend to find myself personally being able to take a step back when I notice behavioral things that I do. For example, and it's not even on that list, but when I'm stressed and the stress creeps up on me, I tend to notice myself starting to lose things. I'll lose my keys. I'll lose my wallet. I'll just misplace things. You know, I'll lock something in my car. And as you're caught up in the hustle bustle of life, that when I start doing things like that, maybe once or twice in a short period of time, that's when I take a step back and I say, okay, Lucas, what's going on in your life? You know, ground yourself. You need to take some time to relax. You need to manage some stress. You need to just ask yourself some questions before you keep just trying to muddle through. So a lot of the time they're physical things, really apparent things like pounding heart rate, and we can tell that. That's good feedback from our bodies to let us know that we need to take care of our stress. But sometimes they can go into the other columns along here. So just think about some of the things that you do that are a little bit funny, a little bit weird, but mean that you need to check in with yourself. So if you don't manage your stress, and you know, this is a bit of a negative slide, but it needs to be said, there's some scary physical effects, behavioral effects, and emotional effects. So yeah, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There's a saying that emotions start in our brains, but live in our bodies. And it's very true. And there's so much science to back it up. A lot of people think it's kind of a hippy-dippy way of thinking that there's that mind-body connection. There is. I mean, there's just so much evidence to support that. So understand that your thoughts and the mental aspect and the emotional aspects that you feel transfer into your body, and it can manifest into certain diseases, ulcers, infections, diabetes, cancer. There has been that linkage identified. So not to scare you, but just to let you know that it's not just about going and working out and eating the right things, but still being really stressed out. We have to take care of our minds as well. Behavioral effects. So those have all been seen in people that are, let stress happen for too long. And emotional effects. And you see how it can get pretty serious, and it can lead into mental health. If you don't take care of a high degree of stress in your life, it can manifest into certain mental health conditions, and it can be kind of scary that way as well. So we need to understand that we have to take it seriously. There needs to be a plan, an action plan to make sure that we're taking care of our stress. So this is the basic stress model. And I don't know how you would do that to your car. So there's usually an event, external or internal. In this case, external. You do that to your car, and then it enters the mental filter, and you interpret that event. And depending on how you interpret that event, you can either land more in the green or more in the red. You can either manage your stress or not manage your stress. You can either respond with a coping thought, or you can react with a trigger thought. If you did that to your car, your first thoughts might be in the red. You might be thinking, the damages, how much is that going to cost me? This is so embarrassing. The neighbors are going to see this. You could say, How is my insurance going to be affected by this? You could go right to the red, and you could start reacting with that primal response, and have all the negative effects on your body being felt through that. The other choice that you could make, and again, this is a choice that you could make in your mental filter, is you could look at that picture and you could say, I'm glad nobody got hurt, first of all. That reaction right there is going to be more green than red. I'm just so happy nobody got hurt. Second one could be, this is kind of funny. Like I need to take a picture of this with my cell phone because I got to show people later. It's not funny right now, but I know this is going to be funny. So I'm gonna snap a picture, and maybe I'll look at it in a year. But look at these cars. How could that have happened? So again, like maybe that was an extreme way of thinking, but there's ways to interpret what's happened in front of you. You can either manage it or you can react to it. So you can control the way that you think, and by doing that, you control the effect on your body. Much easier said than done. I understand that it's very simplistic, but this is what we try to remind people of as they're going through life. So the bottom line is you can see two different things in one image or in one scenario. So for example, take a look at this picture and maybe chime in on the chat. Who sees an old woman and who sees a young woman? Go ahead on the chat. Trevor's going to tell me if people are chiming in. So some people could see, a young woman with you can see her nose is a small nose in the background versus an older woman has the big nose. Maybe some people can only see an old woman or a young woman and not see both. It takes time. It takes reflection. And a lot of the times we can't do it alone, okay? Sometimes we only can see one image until somebody else shows us. And that's really where your support network comes into play. So we are social creatures. We're social beings that rely on each other to get through life. So when we're confronted with something that seems negative or seems one way, we only see the young woman. Sometimes it takes somebody else to come in our life and say, no, here's the mouth of the old woman. Here's the nose of the old woman. And to see our perception change through the eyes of somebody else. So we need to stay connected with our social support system so that when we're going through something really hard in our life, whether that be the loss of someone or something or a job or a situation, and a lot of change has to do with loss, people can talk to us about the possible positives that could come out of this and a different way of looking at it, for example, as a opportunity for growth versus just a terrible thing that happened. Okay. But if you have a good social support network, your sense of belonging improves, your sense of self-worth improves, your feeling of security, and your cortisol levels, that stress hormone in our body that does so much havoc within our body if we let it run too long, will go down, and that'll have a better effect on our physical health. So this is a really good activity that we do in our Stress Take Charge course, and I would have everybody either screenshot it on their phone if that's what they're doing, or use your snipping tool on your computer to grab a shot of this, or even just take out a piece of paper and write down these 7 circles and their titles. And it's really good for us to look at our lives, kind of bird's eye view at this, and say, in our life, who is the person that we go to for fun? Who is our best friend that we go to for comfort? Who do we go to when we feel overload, when we feel like life is too much and we're overwhelmed? Who do we go to as far as a resource? Somebody who's really smart and can get us in touch with the right people. Who challenges the way that we think? Maybe they don't tell me what I want to hear, but they tell me what I need to hear. Who appreciates me and can give me that confidence? Who is my role model? Who do I want to emulate? Who would I want advice for in that regard, because they've made so many good choices in their life. When we go through change, we want to understand what our resources are. So write in those people, draw up those bubbles and write in, who are our go-to people, and then take a look at that and say, well, how have I used my social support network with the changes that I've been through? If there's some people that are there on that list that you haven't even reached out to while you've gone through significant change, you're not using all the tools in your toolbox. You're not using your people, and the people that you trust the most and that you rely on the most. So, make sure that you have that somewhere, and you can reflect on that, and that you're using your social support network. And then the other thing too is notice if you have variety in there of people. A lot of us, have one person, or maybe 2 people, 3 people that are our closest people in our lives, whether that be a significant other or our parents or our sisters or our best friend, and we see overlap in those bubbles, and that's okay. But we want to be able to rely on more than just 1 or 2 people. So we try to have a bit of diversity. It's almost like in the stock market, you want to have pockets of money everywhere, so that if something happens, you still have people to rely on, and you're not relying on one thing too much. So have variety in your social support network. Try to have a few names within those bubbles. And again, overlap is fine, but we want to be able to reach out to a variety of people, because putting all your stuff on one person isn't fair to that person either, right? And you want to help manage their stress as well. So, think about that, take that with you, and that might help you really get in touch with what is there for you as you go through change. Now, through that, relying on people to help you change your thoughts and see different perceptions of situations that seem terrible and could be opportunities. As you do that more and more, you will find that you'll start to change your mind. You will start to change your attitude. There's a saying right there on bullet number 2, what you think is what you get. And it is so true that, our minds dictate what happens in the physical world. So what you think is what you get. That's everything, as far as what your attitude gets you. Reframing is a mental filter skill. So to be able to see what clearly, you don't want to have rose-colored glasses on through life and be naive, but seeing the positives in life is a real skill. And change your explanation of what happened. So again, finding some meaning in life, even with the bad things. That's all about having a positive attitude. So it takes time to get there, but through the people that you rely on and through grounding yourself, you'll find that your attitude will begin to change about life in a positive way. And this is kind of where we all want to be, this acceptance and flow. So we've heard this possibly before, and it's a good kind of mantra to say to yourself, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that's what we want to be. And the wisdom to know the difference is really the sticking point, isn't it? To know when we can't push any further, when we're just spinning our wheels, something has been thrust on us through our lives that we can't change. There's no point in continuing to fight. We have to find some acceptance in that. But if we can change something, we need to take action, and we need to mobilize our resources, and we need to have the courage to change. So we just need to know when to draw the line, the wisdom to know the difference. So how you can reduce stress as you go through change. So things that you can do, you need to take care of yourself, okay? And these are kind of the 4 cornerstones of that. So first of all, the easy ones that we always talk about in health promotion and PSP staff always bark at everybody about, healthy eating and physical activity. So taking care of our bodies physically. It's hugely important. So we talked about that mental filter with the car, and then everything enters the mental filter, and then we decide whether we want to manage our stress or react to stress. That mental filter is hugely affected by how well we take care of our bodies. So how much physical activity we get, what kind of foods we're putting into our bodies to fuel our brains. Also, how much sleep you're getting. Think about how you react to, I don't know, traffic the next morning after getting 2 hours of sleep versus getting 8 hours of sleep. I bet that you're going to be feeling a different way. And that's because you're just set up in a different way to handle stress. Think about trying to handle, a crying baby when you already have a booming headache. Versus feeling okay. You're going to be able to handle that situation better because your mental filter is not being clouded by pain, and that can be a headache, that can be anything else going on in your body. So your physical makeup through physical activity and healthy eating is hugely important to set you up in the first place. Your support system, we already talked about that. We need to know that that's there for you. And then relaxation is something that we say, oh yeah, like I relax. I get home from work after a tough day and I'll watch, 4 hours of TV. Is that relaxing or is that just distracting? Have you decided to choose avoidance to just give yourself a turn off your brain for 4 hours? Is that managing your stress, or are you just putting your stress on hold? So I would argue that relaxation, it's more engaging than that. You're allowed to think while you relax, and that could be going for a walk out in nature. It could be, just spending quality time with your family. There's wise decisions on how to relax. And if you take the Stress Take Charge course with Health Promotions, we go into depth in terms of good choices to make for relaxation. But it's got to be like right in there. Relaxation in your daily schedule. We need to take it as seriously as the things that you eat and the workouts that you do in the gym. It has to be that regimented so that you don't have stress build up on you throughout your lives, and all of a sudden you're trying to get in some relaxation to repair. Relaxation is a preventative thing for sure. 1 minute stress strategy. So you find yourself in a situation where stress has come down on you, and life has gotten out of control, maybe a little bit. And you know that you need to calm yourself down for the sake of yourself. Things that you can do, you can laugh, and sometimes you can force laughter. Yeah, find something funny, find a funny joke, watch a funny movie. I just told you not to watch TV, but talk to a friend that makes you laugh. Even force some laughter, as creepy as that might be. You might find that helps. Just the act of laughing could actually release some endorphins and release your stress. And maybe you just laugh at yourself for trying to laugh, and that can work. Abdominal breath is something that we teach in our courses, and that just means that you're breathing through your abdominals. You're doing low and deep breathing. So the easy way to do that and to make sure that you're doing that would be to put one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach. And as you breathe, you should only feel that bottom hand moving. And sorry if my top hand already started moving, but it takes some concentration to make sure that your breath is not shallow, because that shallow breath, that chest breathing, that's a stress response. We find ourselves doing that when we're under stress. The deep breathing into our abdominals really shows a good relation to calming down our bodies and adding some clarity to our minds. Take, at least 10 cycles, which would take no more than 5 minutes of deep breathing. Maybe count to 4 or 5 on the way in, hold for a second, 4 or 5 on the way out. And if you're experiencing a lot of stress, maybe some anxiety, just by doing that and forcing yourself to do that at that slow pace with that abdominal breath and not letting that top hand move, you will feel yourself calm down. And that'll help you get through, a really overwhelming time. Check in using HALT. So the HALT acronym, that stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So we want to check in with that acronym when we're making big decisions, okay? Or we're feeling really, terrible thoughts. We can ask ourselves, well, how am I set up? How's my mental filter set up for this, both physically and emotionally? So on the physical side, am I hungry? Am I tired? Well, that's affecting my thoughts. Am I angry? Am I lonely? Those are emotions. Well, that's affecting my thoughts too. So if I'm any one of those four when I'm about to write back an email to somebody when I'm angry or when I'm upset, I want to make sure that I can put the brakes on that, the 24-hour rule before you send back an email type of thing. We want to make sure that we're best set up to have the best responsible response to situations as they come. So use that HALT, meaning stop acronym, to make sure that you're good to go before you take your next steps and you're not creating a more stressful situation for yourself. Switching your perspectives to the 5-year question is something that I do quite often when things are feeling really important on the spot, and you're thinking to yourself, like, my life's ruined or whatever. If you ask yourself, is this really going to matter in 5 years? Like this specific situation, is this going to matter in 5 years? Like, am I even going to think about this? Am I even going to remember that this happened in 5 years? Sometimes yes, if it's serious enough, but oftentimes no. Like oftentimes there aren't 5-year implications for the day-to-day things, at least, that happen in our lives. Sure, life-changing events, loss of a loved one, all that kind of stuff, that's different. But I'm talking about like daily hassle stuff, job stuff, boss stuff. Ask yourself that 5-year question. Usually you can give yourself a bit of relief that way to say, okay, I got to take care of this. It does matter now, but I know in the big picture of things, I'm good. So yeah, those types of things can really help you in the moment, depending on the situation and the context, in terms of managing your stress quickly, just to save yourself. So, in closing, we talked about you're juggling those balls in a windstorm. Well, this kind of ties into that. You can't change the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails to go in any direction. So life's going to throw you curveballs, and it's thrown us all a lot of curveballs lately. The bottom line is, we can't control our external environment, but we can control our minds and our bodies. We do have control over that. And we can use the people around us to help us through situations. But there's always hope. There's always a way to navigate through any situation in life. We just need to take care of ourselves and take care of each other. Okay. So with that, what I'll do is I'll get out of my slideshow, because I know I won't be able to get back into it like before. I don't want another stress response, because I'll have to do some deep breathing. But I'll get out of the slideshow, and I'll throw up a quick couple poll questions just to make sure that we can capture everybody. So we'll go into my polls, and all right, so first one I will share now. How satisfied are you with the Demio platform? This is a different way of doing business for us in health promotions. It's not as back and forth, which is weird for me. I like to deal with humans right in front of me, but hopefully you got something out of it. I see that most of you did. Maybe some of you are kind of on the fence, or maybe on the other side of the fence, and I appreciate that perspective. It's definitely not ideal, but I appreciate your feedback on that for sure. And I'll go back into my polls again. Okay. I feel I can apply what I learned today in my daily living. Again, it was a short and generic brief, and I know that you have very specific things going on in your life that take time with somebody to really give you specific advice. But I'm really happy to see that everyone's in those top 2 tiers to say that they can apply some of what I had to say with our health promotion material in their lives. So that's great. That's really great to hear. Excellent. So I'm going to get into the chat now, and just give me a second so I can just read through a few of these. Hunger is a big one for sure. Just a really quick one that I thought would be fun, because we do have some extra time. When you're really stressed, I saw that hunger is a big one. Does your appetite increase or decrease? Maybe just throw your response into the chat. Just say decrease or increase. Increase. Depends on the situation. Increase. I'll take a thumbs up as increase. Okay. Yeah. So it's really interesting, and there's some reasons for that, right? So when we're going through stress, stress takes energy, right? Like the reactions in our bodies takes a lot of energy to produce a higher heart rate and thickening your blood and heavy breathing, all that kind of stuff takes calories, right? So when we're going through something like that, there's a reason why we are getting hungrier potentially. Um, and it's the type of food. Yeah, I calm down when there you go. I decrease until I find my food. But when we're really stressed, we're usually not reaching for like lean chicken breast or tofu or the healthy choices, are we? What do you like to eat when you're stressed? Give me a couple responses in the chat, if you dare. It's not a nutrition brief. Don't worry. Fast food. Okay. There's one. And maybe another couple to trickle in. Chips. Okay, thank you. So we're looking at, first of all, something that tastes good and gives us some emotional comfort, right? Get me some endorphins, make me feel better, distract me from this terrible situation. I'd rather eat some, potato chips or some chocolate or some pizza. The reason for that is that stuff is carbs, and carbs are our fastest energy source that get quickest into the bloodstream. So part of it is an emotional reach to try to distract ourselves and feel better and taste good. But a part of that is because we need quick energy to sustain what we're going through physically. So yeah, there's a reason for that besides just wanting to pick out on junk food because it tastes good. Yeah, cool. So any other questions? Like, I mean, I don't want to dictate the content too much further. I mean, you just went through a slideshow with me, but is there any questions related to stress that you'd like to, or even just observations that you'd like to throw on the chat that I can help address while we're all here together? It's a tough topic to really be too open with on these types of forums, so I appreciate that. Okay, I'm not saying too much there. I didn't really expect to halt. What I would say is that hopefully with this you have a taste for what we offer in health promotions, regardless of your location. And get in touch with your health promotion staff, and we have resources for you. You can take courses and really dive into this on a more personal level and more relatable level to the specific situations in your life. And you'll engage with other people and you'll hear their perspectives. And maybe if you've gone to a different location, or you don't know many people in your current location, you'll have a social support network with you right there on the spot. A room full of people that are talking about their challenges. And again, Stress Take Charge is not a course that you go to because you're struggling with your stress. The idea is to be preventative. So anybody can benefit from that course, whether they themselves are going through something, or, they work with people and they want to be, good allies to somebody, their colleagues, their family, all that kind of thing. These courses are very good to have as just to arm yourself before you're even in a stressful situation. But in the meantime, I know we're kind of all in limbo right now. I would say just reach out to health promotion staff individually. And my email, my civilian email that I'll give right now is DeMarco, DEMARCO _L@hotmail.com. I will get back to you, and I will do my job from that forum right now until we're able to get back into the workplace, which should be very shortly, I will say. And you're not alone out there if you're going through something, and we can still work together and reach out to all the other staff that are out there. I wrote extremely dissatisfied in one of the polls, but I meant the opposite, so sorry. Fast fingers, all good. Okay, I take note of that. I appreciate that. I hope you're not just being nice and that you're being honest, and I trust that you are. No, I appreciate that feedback too. Any other questions before we sign off here? All right. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. You know, you will get through whatever you're going through in your lives. We will all find a new normal. And we'll get to the other side of this situation and all the little situations within each of your lives, or big situations within each of your lives. And be well, take care of each other, and we'll talk soon. All right. Take care. Thank you.